everybody. Welcome back to Season 2 of Conflict and Clarity Podcast. I'm here with a special guest, Kristian Carranza.
Hey, how's it going?
It is going pretty good. Just getting everything set up. Got a new set, everything else. Getting everything
good.
Ready for you?
I'm excited. I know it's a Season 2 premiere, so I'm ready to get to it.
All right. So, Kristian Carranza, you are a former candidate, and you're still going to be running for District
118. That's right. I ran last year, and I just relaunched my campaign this summer. So back in this past June, I said, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to do it again. This is bigger than one election. This is about making real change for my community. So I'm ready to get back to it.
Okay. So you went up against John Luan, right?
That's right.
He was the Republican candidate. And this district is unique in San Antonio. Can you explain how this district kind of works when it comes to mapping? Because it's kind of all over the place.
It is. So it's a very gerrymandered district, right? After the 2020 census, the map in 118 was targeted this district, and they used classic gerrymandered tactics to crack and pack the district all throughout. So if you were to look at a map of Bexar County, it looks like a backward C. Right? So it's all within Bexar. It's the part of the south side that I'm from, the Harlandale area. It's the southern rural areas, so like Somerset. It goes all the way out towards like far east side, think like East Central ISD area, like Von Army, Elmendorf, and then it goes all the way up to where we are right now, the northeast. It goes up to IKEA, so all right there on 35, and then a little bit further up. So there's some Live Oak, there's some Converse,
and we're actually just past IKEA. It kind of goes that further than
that's
IKEA.
That's right. Yeah, it's. I mean, it took me 52 minutes to get here.
In the same district.
In the same district, and it's funny because I knocked the entire district when I ran last year. I knocked 10,000 doors, so I knocked 10%. We knocked on 100,000 doors, so I knocked on 10% of that. And the conversations absolutely look a bit different as we get more to the northeastern part of the district. But people I really listened to what folks wanted, and it sounded to me like people really want change and they want real leadership. And it was a really close election. It was the closest state house race in all of Texas. So there are definitely a lot of people who want to see that change.
So when I met you, I was actually voting that day. I think it was the last day to vote. It was at the Judson Library.
You waited until the last day to vote?
I don't know. Was it the last day when you were there?
I was there every day of early voting. Yeah.
I couldn't remember. Or it was the last day of early voting. It was one of the two.
I remember it was a long line. That was a very busy polling location, but I want to say it was during early voting.
So I met you there, and I talked to John Luan as well.
Okay.
I went ahead and I voted for you, of course. I got to vote for you. When it was all said and done, John Luan was the one that won the election, and I believe it was very close. What was the margin?
It was 3 points.
3 points.
Yeah, so about 2,700 votes. It was the closest state house race. So there were a lot of other what we call challenger races. So you're going up and against an incumbent. There were a lot of other challenger races that people were keeping their eyes on that were definitely being well funded and had really amazing candidates, really amazing Democrats, but those seats lost by 7 points, 5 points, and this was the only seat that kept the same margin from the cycle previously, and I think that's because our message broke through. I'm on the 6th page of the ballot, and we outperformed the very top of the ticket, Vice President Harris, in every single precinct, which is insane for a first-time state rep candidate.
So are you saying that you're more popular than former Vice President?
Absolutely. She has 100% name ID.
At least with the maybe folks here in San Antonio.
Well, I worked really hard. I'm really proud to say this. I was a really hardworking fundraiser on my campaign. I have a lot of work ethic, and we raised more than any other first-time state rep candidate has ever done before in Texas. And we kind of reimagined what a state house race can look like. And we had TV ads, we had mailers, and everything on the campaign, whether it was a commercial, whether it was the piece of mail that you got, all of that messaging, all of those issues came from the community, because I knocked on those doors, and I wanted to make sure that it was the community's voice in all of my messaging.
Whenever you did that, how does it all work? How do you make, do you work a job as well, or do you get funded through the campaign?
Some campaigns, so some candidates will fund themselves through their campaign. I did not. So I've been doing political work for the last 10 years as a community organizer.
Okay.
And so I was doing projects here and there all throughout the campaign, and I still am, as a way to supplement my income.
Okay. So when you're a community organizer, I know there's people maybe are interested in it. What exactly do you do, and how do you get into that field? Is it like a contracted work, or do you work consistently for an organization?
So how I got involved in community organizing, I just fell into it. I mean, really. And it's funny because I work with a lot of really amazing people who, maybe they studied political science in college, and they always knew, like, I'm going to work campaigns. Growing up on the South Side, nobody was coming to our door, like knocking on the door and being
Right.
like, hey, are you going to be voting in this election? Like, so I didn't really have like a concept for what campaigns were. And so really, like, when I say I fell into it, I really did. It was the summer of 2013. And I remember I voted for Obama, and I voted in the Democratic presidentials, and I knew I voted Democrat because my mom was like, we're too poor for you not to be a Democrat. But I remember I saw this tweet from President Obama summer 2013, and he said, something special is happening in Austin tonight. Hashtag stand with Wendy. And I was
Right.
like, who's Wendy? And I went to this, it was a YouTube link live stream, and it was then State Senator Wendy Davis in her pink tennis shoes
Okay.
filibustering for so many hours by the time I started watching. And I was in my bedroom here in San Antonio. I was sitting on the floor. I had my back against my bed, and I was like on my laptop, like watching this. And she stood for over 13 hours.
Wow.
I started watching maybe like hour 6 or hour 7, and I didn't know it at the time, but people had been driving all across Texas to like support her and cheer for her.
Right.
And so I was watching all the way through. There are 3 strikes when you do a filibuster. You have 3 strikes, and then you're out.
Okay.
And so I forget what the 3rd strike was. It was like maybe like somebody was helping her like put a back brace on or something. But she hits her 3rd strike about 30 minutes from midnight. And when that happens, like, you have to stop filibustering. You have to
Right.
stop speaking, right? So when that happened, 30 minutes to midnight, all the state senators try to all come together really quickly to go vote. But there was all the people that had been driving all day had filled the rotunda in the Capitol with like signs, and they were cheering and like chanting way too loud to let any of the other state senators to
Right.
vote. And the bill died at midnight. And I still get like all these goosebumps when I talk about
Really?
it. Yeah, and I talk about it often because it's an important part of my story. But for me, it was this big aha moment, and it was the first time I had ever seen anybody literally stand up for women's rights and reproductive rights in our state, like Wendy did that day. And so she's a role model of mine. She's a mentor of mine. But when she said a few months later that she'd run for governor of Texas, I thought, I don't know what it is to be on a campaign. I don't know what
Right.
that looks like, but I know I have to be a part of this. So long story short, I became a volunteer. Learned how to phone bank. I learned how to knock on doors. They made me an intern, and then that snowballed into being a campus organizer.
Okay.
And then that snowballed into a career. And so every cycle, I will, take a job, and then the next cycle, try to be like the supervisor of that job, and then work my way up.
So you're basically working for like a seasonal work.
So it can feel that way because it's very cycle based.
Right.
So every campaign job ends in November. But there are lots of different types of jobs in the political world, in the campaign world. There are absolutely organizations that you don't have an end date. I worked at the DNC in 2022. I was really proud and I was in a really high role. It was one of those kind of like imposter syndrome moments of like, oh my gosh, like they're really going to let me do this. But
Right.
it was an amazing job opportunity, and I got to live in DC. I was working directly with the White House. I got to work directly with the Vice President, with President Biden, and it was probably one of the most empowering experiences of my life. But a lot of what I did was I got to advocate for resources for about 42 states in the U.S., and one of those was Texas.
Okay.
And so you better believe that I made sure that my home state got a lot of resources that cycle.
Okay, that's awesome. When's your next election?
It's this coming primary next year.
Next year, 2026, right?
That's right. Spring of 2026.
How soon does someone have to be registered before the primary
30
starts?
days.
30 days.
30 days
okay.
before election day. So as long as you're registered to vote, you can vote in that election.
And after your primaries, how soon will the race start between you and the incumbent?
So I don't have anybody who has announced that they're going to be running against me in the Democratic primary. What would happen is I would still be on the ballot even if I was running unopposed, and then the general election would be the November of 2026. So that would be when I would go up against the incumbent.
Okay. So y'all run every 2 years? Is that how it works for that?
Yes,
seat?
that seat, it's every 2 years.
Okay. And that's the Texas House. Now, let's explain, because most people are probably not going to really know what someone in the Texas House, what they do
Oh, yeah.
on there. Could you give us like a quick synopsis of what would be your job and duties as a House representative for Texas?
So our state reps, there are our state lawmakers at the state house level. Every 2 years they meet and they do a legislative session.
Okay.
And so they just had legislative session this summer. Now we've had 2 special sessions, so we're actually in the second special session. It's been kind of a dramatic summer, if you kind of remember from the last couple of weeks.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. It's still a fight, but the Texas Democrats are in a fight to uphold the principles of our democracy
Right.
and to protect the state of Texas and the U.S. from an authoritarian government. So the Republicans are trying to rig the rules and redraw the maps at the federal level, so
Okay.
not at the state house level. So they're state reps, but that's the process in Texas to redistrict. And it's unprecedented, right, to do
Right.
it mid-census. Like that happens after the census every 10 years.
Okay. Now, how do the Republicans sell this to the public whenever they're redistricting? What is their reason behind it?
They have a lot of reasons, but none of them are good reasons. I mean, this is a clear power grab. That's what's happening. They know that they broke a lot of promises that they made last year, right? A lot of folks were feeling frustrated economically, but now it's like we're even in more economic chaos. They know that they can't get elected on their voting record alone, so they're trying to like rig the rules and rig the system so that way Republicans can keep control of the House of Congress. So that's what's happening.
Okay.
And what's really, I feel, egregious is they're saying like one of their main priorities is flood prevention and making sure that there's enough funding to keep what happened on July 4th from happening again.
Yeah, redistricting. That's probably why District 118 looks kind of odd. It's all the way from the south side and it loops all the way to the northeast side.
Yeah, it's really gerrymandered, and I think the part of it that really sticks out, and it's not just because it's my home neighborhood, but it's the part that you can really see when I talk about gerrymandering practices, like what's going on. So before the 2020 census, when they redrew the lines, State House District 118, it used to be a solid blue district.
Right.
It used to be a district that all voted together, right? So what they did was they cut up the Harlandale neighborhood. That's my home neighborhood. And so now, depending on like what street you live on, you can live in up to anywhere of one of 3 districts.
Okay.
So, I would be out there talking to people like on the doors, like in my neighborhood, and they would say, my cousin, she lives 2 streets away. Can you bring her a sign, like one of your pink yard signs? And I would tell them, and I'm like, what's the name of that street? And I'm like, that's not actually in the district.
Right.
And it's crazy, right? And so people are really confused. Like they don't know who they're voting for because the lines have changed so much. And they did that. So basically what they did was they took out a lot of these precincts in the Harlandale area. So it's a majority Latino district and majority Latino neighborhood. So they put those precincts into already safe blue districts.
Okay.
that are neighboring districts. So by doing that, what you're doing is you're diluting the Latino voting power. I testified earlier this year in U.S. District Court about this on a case specifically for House District 118, because you can really see just how obvious it is what they're doing, right? They're really just trying to, again, rig the rules because they know that that's would otherwise not be a community that would vote for them.
With that all being said, I know it was a crucial spot to win for the Democratic Party. You lost by 3 points.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think? I know gerrymandering is probably one of the reasons, but what else do you think happened that allowed John Lujan to get the victory? Because it seemed like you had a lot of exposure. People knew who you were. You're becoming a household name here in San Antonio. I learned about the first time I saw you was I went, not personally, but I went to the mailbox. I get this flyer out, and there's a picture of you photoshopped into a school bus.
That was not one of my mailers, but yeah.
It was saying, "Don't let Kristian Carranza indoctrinate your kids."
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was an AI generated mailer that I think that they used, and it was funny because it was like me like driving a school bus. I don't even have a CDL license, so I don't know how they figured that out, but no, there was a lot of messaging, a lot of mail, a lot of ads going on about me and the Democratic Party. And I think that honestly, I really feel like a lot of people just were very economically frustrated, and Republicans promised that things would get better if they voted more Republicans in. And I think like the biggest difference between last year and this year is that it's very clear that Republicans have broken their promise.
Right.
And so things are worse off than they were a year ago, and people are very, very frustrated now. I think the Democrats, we used to be the proud party for working class people, and that's shifted. Republicans are
Right.
trying to be in that place, and I mean, a lot of it is lip service, don't get me wrong, but I think people felt like Democrats weren't fighting for them, weren't talking about their issues. Right. And so for me, what I'm doing is I'm listening. Of course, that's one of my my values as an organizer is like listening to the community and like paying attention to what people are actually saying, but making sure that we're talking about issues that matter to people, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, folks just want to feel like they can pay rent, they can put dinner on the table, they can send mijo and mija to college. They want to make sure that their kids are set up for success, and that's really that simple. And I think that Democrats understand where they've gone wrong, and I'm trying to get back on the right path, because the Democrats are the party of working class people. Like I said, like my mom told me, we're too poor for you not to be a Democrat.
Right.
But it's true, right? And it's not just poor people, middle class people, anybody who, even upper middle class people who aren't a part of the 1%, the 2%. I think folks maybe don't always think about it this way. Many of us are closer to a homeless person than we are to a billionaire.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's the Democrats who are the ones that are thinking about the people, and it's the Republicans who are the ones that are cutting tax breaks for the billionaires. And for me, I think that's going to be a big part of what we talk about, is just like making sure people understand that Dems are fighting for you.
Now, when you come across a Republican voter, what do you have to say to them to get your vote? How do you relate to them? Because we all have this same goal. We just have a different path to take around to it, right? Mm-hmm. Some people on the right will take the right turn, left one's the left turn. They all want to get to the same goal, right?
That's right. I think that we're all just people at the end of the day. And I've talked to Republicans. I spoke with a gentleman who lives but maybe like 5 minutes away from me on the south side. His name is Marcus. He is a Republican, has voted Republican for a lot of his adult life. He told me that, he's been living on a street for 30 years. He knows his neighbors really well. And it's funny because, and I could tell that there's like a lot of community there, and they're really close to each other. But it's, you see the different like political signs in their yards. But, he asked me about vouchers, and he said, can you tell me more about, I keep hearing vouchers, but I'm hearing different things. And so I explained, the issue to him, and how it's a $10,000 voucher that's going to go to parents who want to send their children to private school. And he said, well, I send my kids to private school. Like, it doesn't sound bad to me. And I said to him, I think it's a blessing that you're able to send your children to private school. He said he went to public schools, and he's like, and me and my wife work hard to send my two children to private school. And I tell him, like, that's amazing. The thing is that 92% of our kids in Texas go to public schools. right? And so you're defunding these schools that are already underfunded, but you're defunding these public schools, and you're using that money, and you're siphoning off that money. You're using that money to help fund private schools, and and I told him, it's like asking your neighbors, people you've known for a long time, to help you send your children to private school.
Right.
And that didn't sit well with him, right? Like I said, he's known these people for many, many years. They're like family to him. He didn't like the idea of like other people helping him when he can already afford to do so.
Right.
And I think that like that kind of just having that conversation, and because I always want to make sure that people feel listened to, even if we're not always on the same side of the issue, because I feel like there's honestly a lot of common ground. So when you have that kind of conversation with that respect, you can actually learn a lot from people. And I think that's what happened. I think I won him over, specifically on that issue, because he just couldn't make sense with why they were doing that to these schools, especially on the south side, where we had 4 elementary schools defunded in the 2023 school year.
That's something I've been seeing. Conservatives, Republican voters, they're actually, a lot of them are against school vouchers. They oppose it. I've seen a lot of it, and then that's something that the Democrats and Republican voters can kind of get together on. But it's about picking the right candidate that's going to represent them.
That's right.
And help push that matter to get that change.
That's right.
But it's already made.
Yes.
Right. It's in existence. Is there a way to repeal it, or is it something that we're going to have to adapt to?
We need to flip the House, and we need to flip the House before the next redistricting at the State House in Texas, if we're going to see any big changes with that. And that's why I'm working so hard, because I'm in the seat that's most likely to flip. And I know it's not the best answer to say that we just need to elect more Democrats, but a lot of these issues would be fixed if we just elected people who are looking out for working people.
And I understand, I was talking to you last night on the phone, that your seat, because it was very crucial. It was close to being where if you would have won the election, and potentially, I know someone else's seat in Corpus flipped.
Right.
But you would have been the tiebreaker to determine if the school voucher program passed or not.
That's right. Yeah, it really was like a make or break seat, and there was that seat that flipped in Corpus. Abel Herrero, an amazing state rep. I was a district aide for him actually about 9 years ago, but yeah, it was. And it goes to show that like there are also Republicans and a lot of people in Texas who were not in favor of passing vouchers, right? And that's why Greg Abbott basically went to civil war with his own party, right? And he said, "Hey, if you're not going to vote for vouchers, then I'm going to run somebody against you in the primary." And he did. He kicked out a lot of Republicans doing it that way. That's an authoritarian way of doing politics, and that's what we're working with. And that's when I say, it's so important that we're flipping the state house before the next redistricting, because we can't let Republicans do what they're doing right now with Congress, because we know that whenever they draw these maps, it's never for the better, and it's never to help people like us.
Now, these people that do, I'm sure there's some people that took advantage of it. They put their kids in private school maybe the first time this year. I don't know how many or what percentage, but I'm sure a good amount. And then the other people that were going to private school, now they're getting that $10,000 voucher. You ever heard the term, don't feed the bears? Because they're going to come back and expect, their food still there.
I have not heard that one, but it sounds
right.
Like
in California, don't feed the bears, because they're always going to, you feed them once, they're always going to come back for more.
Oh, okay.
Now, when...
That's like the little dogs on the south side.
Yeah.
The stray dogs and the stray cats.
Yeah. So when these people are getting used to that $10,000, and then let's say y'all flip the house, y'all could repeal that bill. What do you say to those people that were used to that and they were happy about their kids going to private school and be able to subsidize the tuition?
So I think that a majority of the people who are using the vouchers are people who can already afford to send their children to private school. And you never want to take away a program like this, like, you know, you never want to like start it and end it. Like that's not what it's supposed to be. But it's draining resources from the schools that need it most. And that's what's happening. And if you look at District 118, I mean, like, this is not a district that benefits from vouchers. Again, it's like it's a really gerrymandered. It's a little all over the map, but lots of parts of, because it's not just an urban, right? It's urban, it's rural, it's suburban. Most of the district falls in an area of the county that don't even have private schools, don't even have private schools that go all the way up to 12th grade. And so who is this really helping, right? Especially for people in this community. So people aren't even able to take advantage of this, because let's say that it's a $20,000 tuition. A $10,000 voucher is going to cover half, but then the other $10,000, your family's going to have to come up with that. And it's not just the tuition, right? It's travel fees, right? Like transportation. What if your kid's a slow reader and they need a tutor? That's something that the public schools can provide, but it's not something that private schools are going to be able to cater to all the time. So there's so many other fees and programs that people don't always take into account when they're thinking about all this, and all that adds up. And so this is not the type of program, the voucher program is not the type of program that helps people in these kind of communities.
One of the most harmful things that can happen to funding is a school may get a federal grant. That means they get hired like a reading interventionist or math interventionist, a crucial role to pull these kids out of class and work on the small groups. But what happens when that federal grant's up is those positions get eliminated, and then those kids have to just stay in a classroom, and they put that responsibility on the classroom teacher, kind of adding to their plate.
Yeah. Basically showing kids like, here's some resources, here's things that we can do for you, and then you're taking them away when they need them most, and then you're now giving more work to already burned out teachers, who already have a huge load. So that you're not setting up anyone for success by doing it that way.
And something that happened during COVID times, there was like emergency grants, all these other things that are put in place to assist the schools or programs and families, but they expire. And then what happens when they expire? Remember, don't feed the bears, and they're going to come back. Yep. We're expecting that. We need that, right? We're the hungry bears.
Yeah.
Where's our food?
The hungry cats. Let's do cats.
The cats?
Yeah, I like hungry cats. Because I feed 4 cats outside of my door, so it's top of mind for me.
So you got your cats.
Yeah. But the cats are going to come back. I mean, I think that there's a lot of these programs that people don't understand exist and can exist. You know, I think a lot of times we because we live in Texas, we just think, okay, this is just how things are going to be, and that's not true. Right? Like running for the state house, because I'm an organizer, and I always think about how I meet people where they are, but it's not just about meeting people where they are. It's also about not leaving them there, right? And it's like showing them how to move forward in a better way, how to move towards a better future, and making sure that they understand the things that are out there that they maybe just can't imagine yet. Right?
Yes.
And so all these types of programs do exist and can exist if we were better resourced.
Yes. And, those kids, they rely on it, and then next year or even later on that year, it can get taken away from them, just like that. And then what they do is they have to cut, because usually sometimes at the schools, the interventionists are funded by federal grants, especially when they're Title I, they get that money right there. But those are grants, are not like a part of the budget. They're just grants at the end of the day.
That's right.
They're not permanent right there. So what do you think should be done to make sure that these incentives that are already in place don't go away, and then you're basically taking a step back, and the school should be better off than last year, not worse off?
Yeah. I mean, and that's what happens a lot in our Texas schools, where we're not opening the door to more federal grants that we could have used. I mean, like, there was a lot of federal money that could have been used for lunches during the summer. So a lot of working families, they rely on our schools to make sure that our kids have nutritional lunches and breakfasts and everything. But there was all this money that we could have used for summer meals, and Abbott just said no. That was last summer. And so, we can't leave federal dollars just laying there, not when our kids really need them.
And I know that the students were used to getting the free lunches whenever it was in place. And then, of course, when that was taken back, everyone felt the effects because they got adjusted to it. It was a nice thing to supplement, pay extra money for your food. It's nice to have your child go to school and know they're going to get fed.
Exactly.
And you're not going to be in debt because of that.
That's right. I'm an advocate for universal free lunch. I think that every kid deserves free lunch, no matter what zip code you're in. These are our kids that we're talking about.